Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
On the first day of the week at early dawn, the women came to the tomb, taking the spices that they had prepared. And the first ones, we are told, to the tomb that day were all women. Mary Magdalene, Joanna, Mary, the mother of James, and some other women who were not named. So at early dawn on the first Easter day, it was anything but hopeful in the hearts of the women. You see, they were taking the spices that they had prepared to clean up the dead, brutalized body of Jesus. Yes, the power and the story of Easter really begins at the foot of the cross on Good Friday. Or to be true to the gospel, those closest to Jesus were watching fearful from some distance. They were afraid to get any closer to what was happening. By all accounts, the execution of Jesus is catastrophic to the band of disciples. Yes, catastrophic as in disaster, collapse, defeat, failure, humiliation. Those are just a few of the words that could describe what happened to Jesus. It had all come apart in a few brief hours, in a few short days. Some saw Jesus, yes, as God's Messiah. Now, politically, others saw him as the nation's Savior, the liberating King of Israel. Throngs were there that glorious Palm Sunday when Jesus rises to Jerusalem with the palms waving and shouts of, "Hosanna, blessed is one who comes in the name of the Lord." And oh my, how quickly it unraveled. One of his 12 closest friends betrayed him for reasons that remain a mystery to this day. And another friend, Peter, once his most staunch defender, denied him, not once, not twice, but 3 different times. And then Jesus is arrested, beaten, humiliated, and finally executed. When crossed on that Friday, Jesus is quickly placed in a borrowed tomb. And the tiny band of Jesus' followers must have asked themselves, isn't this the place to quit? Because with crucifixion, the price paid for even the hope of the kingdom is just too great. It's no longer worth the effort. And if death marks the end of him, Jesus, it feels like the powers of darkness have won. And then they went away to hide. They went away to hide behind closed, locked doors. But God refuses to let it end there. The Easter story continues. At the crack of dawn, the group of women do go to the tomb, taking the burial spices they had prepared. And at the tomb, they find the stone door rolled aside, and looking in, they don't find the body like they expect. And it's then that they meet the 2 men in dazzling light. And in their own understated way, but subtle way, the angels ask the women, "Why do you seek the living among the dead? He is not here. He is not here. He is risen." Now, what would you make of those fantastic words? What do you think they mean? Risen? Risen? What is that all about? You see, resurrection is the last thing that the women expect that morning. Would you have expected such a thing? As humans, yes, of course, we expect to find death and destruction as in the dead body of a loved one, of Jesus. And we could only expect them and us to experience grief and sadness at the loss of a friend. And we probably anticipate that life will be diminished without them from this day forward. But hear those words again. "Why do you seek the living among the dead? He is not here. He is risen." For you see, God will not do what we expect. God refuses to let things remain as they are. Yes, God surprises us with the outrageous and the outlandish. He is risen. The resurrection of Jesus is to be our resurrection too. Not just new life, but an entirely new way of life. Our risen life in Jesus means from this point on, life is meant to be extraordinary. Because once you have died and have risen, how can we ever be the same again? In knowing that the Lord is risen, how can we not be changed? What are those wounds, and what are those resentments, and what are those prejudices that you carry and cling to even now? And if you die, and you carry those to the grave, what have you won? Well, I can tell you, you have won nothing. You see, at Easter, the old ways die, and your new life has begun. With resurrection, we can see everything in life as miracle, or we can choose to see nothing as miracle. Easter is God's way of being outrageous. Easter is God's way of being outlandish. Easter is God's way of refuting what has been done and refusing to give us what we deserve and refusing to be what we expect God to be. Simply put, Easter breaks all the rules. The resurrection of Jesus is God's proof that the worst thing is never the last thing. Just as Good Friday seems to negate all that Jesus does and says, the resurrection means that, after all, Jesus is the way, Jesus is the truth, and Jesus is the life, and life eternal. With Easter, grace and forgiveness, mercy and acceptance are to be the only way forward for the people of God, as if God would have it any other way. From that first Easter on, we and the world have been changed. In light of the resurrection, we know what we were, and we know that we cannot be that way ever again. So then what does it mean to live as an Easter people? Well, it is to know that new life in God and us has already begun, while at the same time, God's life is yet to reach its fullness in us. What we have already become in God is yet to be revealed in its entirety. But I assure you, it will, because God is not finished with us yet. God is not finished with this world, and that's because the Lord is risen. Yes, of course, something extraordinary and powerful happened on the day of resurrection, the first day of the week. Something powerful happens on Easter, something powerful enough to heal every wound, to break down every barrier, to unlock any and every prison, and to forgive every transgression, and to unite all things at enmity. And somewhere in time, somewhere in Christian history, Christians began to think that the resurrection happened only for us. Well, I'm here to tell you that nothing can be farther from the truth. The truth of the cross and resurrection is that no one and no thing is beyond the redemption of the risen Lord. This new reconciled reality is meant for every human being. Every human being, past, present, and on into God's future. With Easter and resurrection, there is enough of God's love to flood every heart, enough grace to raise anyone and everyone who may be dead or lost, and yet the immensity of it all is almost too much to take in. So we may not ever be able to grasp the totality of Easter and resurrection if we let it. If we let it, it can take hold of us and lift us to God, whose compassion and love are beyond all limits. The Lord is risen, and death and destruction have been thrown down. The Lord is risen, and the angels rejoice. The Lord is risen, and life has been set free. The Lord is risen indeed. In God's name.
Amen.